Understanding Words: An End to Anger and Conflict by David Samuel. Copyright David Samuel. www.davidsamuel.net. Copyright David Samuel, 2008. This book is freely distributed. Please pass it on to anyone you wish. I only request that you give credit to the author and maintain the link to my website. Introduction. I have presented this material numerous times to groups in several countries. The participants' feedback was consistent. A reduction of anger by approximately 50% to 70% within a couple of weeks. That may sound unbelievable, but really it is not. The basis of such a large reduction is that there are two kinds of anger. Anger for and anger at something. Anger can be either destructive or constructive, depending on whether it is at or for something. Anger at is destructive and serves no useful purpose. It is the emotion we express toward drivers who cut us off, for example. This type of anger robs you of vital energy and can become addictive, like misery. A friend and teacher once told me, "Some people love their suffering so much I don't have the heart to take it away from them." Anger at is consuming. Like a wildfire with more and more forest to decimate, it continually replenishes its force, rarely burning itself out. If it is not dissolved, it simmers down, laying in wait for yet another reason to control your mind and have you blow up atom-eared rifle. Anger for, on the other hand, is a positive force that many highly successful people use to significant advantage, directing it rather than letting it consume them. Anger for is the type of anger we have about injustice, poverty, or educational, socio-economic, health, or racial inequities, phenomena beyond our control that limit people from expressing their full potential. It makes us want to constructively change the way things are. Anger for the improvement of life often provides the passion that fuels success, like the fire that heats the water for running a steam engine. Mahatma Gandhi, feeling anger for the British injustices toward the people of India, once said, "I have learned through bitter experience the one supreme lesson, to conserve my anger, and as heat conserved is transmuted into energy, even so our anger controlled, focused, can be transmuted into a power which can move the world." And move the world he did. Gandhi's passion was so fervent that 250 million people supported his cause, ultimately returning the control of India to Indians. Always question whether you are angry at or angry for. If you do not know, look for physical cues. Anger at feels like your body is tensing up, or like you can't breathe, or like a gremlin is eating you from the inside, whereas anger for feels more like you are being propelled from the inside. Once you have identified the type of anger you are feeling, recognize that anger at someone must be dissolved and anger for an injustice must be expressed, then take the appropriate measures. An average person's anger is 95% anger at. And so, to eliminate the majority of this in a few weeks with the proper understanding is actually quite reasonable. In time, you can eliminate it entirely. But first you must know its source and then how to disarm it. Although I have attempted to detail as much information as possible to give an in-depth explanation of the principle, the written word cannot fully express the finest points that come up in conversation. However, due to the limitations of time and location, I hope that this book in combination with the extensive collection of my other writings on my website will give you enough information to make significant progress in mastering your mind and life. In time, perhaps, these principles will be absorbed and give you more than you perceive at the moment. I suggest that you forget everything you know, anything you have read or learnt, and read this book with an open mind that sincerely wants to eliminate anger from your life. I offer you this true story to make you smile next time you are angry at. When I was in India, I quickly learned that getting a train ticket there is an experience unlike any in the West. The normal procedure is to push your way to the ticket booth, along with 20 or more other travelers, all clutching their money and attempting to thrust it at the ticket seller. Whoever's money he takes gets the next ticket. This is not the place for a polite, wait your turn type of person. Aware of the chaos, I went a day early to buy a ticket to Alleppey and was delighted to find the station relatively uncrowded. Is there a train going to Alleppey tomorrow morning? I asked the attendant. Yes, sir, there is a train going there every day. Are you sure there is a train going tomorrow? Yes, sir, certainly. There is a train going tomorrow morning 9 o'clock. Good. Can I reserve a seat for that train? No, sir, there is no reserved seating. You come tomorrow and get ticket. I would like to be sure of getting a seat. Can I please have a ticket? No, sir, no need to reserve. There are many seats every day on this train. After a few more pointless attempts to secure a seat for myself, I finally gave up and left, hoping for the best. The next morning the same attendant was at the ticket booth. When I requested a ticket to Alleppey, he replied, "Sorry, sir, there is no train going there today." "What do you mean there is no train?" "Yesterday you said there would be a train today." "Yes, sir, I said there would be a train today." "Well then, I'd like a ticket." "No, sir, there is never a train going there this day." "But you said there is a train every day." "Yes, I said there is a train every day, but there is no train today. There is never a train this day." With steam rising through me, I screamed, "If there is no train going today, why did you tell me there would be one?" The attendant looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I did not want to get you upset. I wish you great success at getting a good seat on the ride through life. Understanding words, an end to conflicts. Ink is only ink. Letters form words from ink, but the ink is still just ink. Ink makes all the different words, see the lines, one by one that form a letter. If you dissect it, it just comes down to a bowl of ink. We speak with words and listen to them. But what are words? They are sounds that convey ideas. If I say the word horse, it may immediately conjure up in your mind an image of the animal you have come to know as a horse, or without any context or spelling, perhaps you may think I am talking about the sound of my voice. But to someone who does not speak English the word will fail to bring any image to mind. Hence while either speaking or listening, it is of no use to get lost in words themselves. Instead, we need to focus on the meanings behind them, on the ideas they are conveying. Words are among the most dangerous powers a person can wield. When what you hear is not what the other person is trying to say, and conversely, when what you want to say is not what the other person is hearing, a conversation can quickly turn into a confrontation. The best precautions are first, not to take the words we hear literally, and second, not to trust your own interpretation of others' statements. If you are in a bad mood and looking for trouble, you may interpret a comment negatively, whereas if you are in a peaceful state of mind, your interpretation may be the opposite, resulting in an altogether different conversation. You cannot enter into anyone else's mind and know exactly how they are thinking at the moment, nor can you expect anyone else to know what is going on in the maze of your mind. You alone are responsible for your reactions to the words of others. Words are like a knife placed on the table. You can pick it up and stick it in your own heart, or you can leave it on the table. The choice is yours. My grandfather told me a story that illustrates how easy it is to misinterpret words and respond inappropriately. When he got off the ship on his first visit to Morocco in 1920, a local who made his living helping tourists approached him. The man asked my grandfather if he needed a hotel. He did not, he replied. Perhaps a nice woman? The man continued. Being married, he replied. Definitely not. Then the man asked, "You want couscous?" My grandfather, being ignorant of Moroccan cuisine, thought he was being cursed and replied, "You go to hell." The moral is this: don't get lost in your interpretation of the words you hear, especially if you are not certain of their meaning or intent. Even if you are certain, you may be mistaken. Many arguments erupt because we interpret words according to what they mean to us rather than to the speaker. However, Once you understand that words are nothing more than concepts with a meaning understood individually by each person and not necessarily identically by everyone, your perspective will quickly expand. You will discover that words are only the beginning, a means of opening the mind to receive a thought. To bring this expanded perspective to the messages you convey, imagine that every word in your vocabulary has 100 meanings. Accepting that your words will have different meanings to different people will greatly improve your ability to communicate without conflict, because that concept will force you to choose your words carefully. Conversely, remember that when you listen, you have that many meanings combined with the same amount that the speaker has. The potential for misunderstanding is infinite. It is only by chance that we can communicate without problems. A monologue is one person talking to themselves. A dialogue is two persons talking to themselves. Problems can arise when you make the false assumption that since we speak the same language, all words have the same meaning to each of us. Illusions like this are the cause of conflicts. Objective acceptance that things are not as clear as they appear and that the rest of the world does not necessarily think the same way you do will solve many problems before they begin. There is nothing new or profound about this. Ask 3 people to recount the same event that they all saw standing side by side, and you will get 3 different stories. Exercise 1. When you are in a coffee shop, or some other place that people are within earshot, listen to conversations and note how often 2 people are talking and neither one is hearing what the other is saying, each really having their own conversation, especially if they are arguing. Are you so sure? You can never be 100% certain that we understand to perfection the thoughts behind what another person is saying. Psychological hang-ups and hesitancy to say what we feel often makes us say the wrong thing. Once we have blurted out words that we realize are not what we meant, but a confrontation has started, our ego takes over and defends what we know as our mistake in order not to admit our error. Before you know it, a fight has started, and the deeper it gets, the harsher the words. All this because our ego is hanging on to words that have not conveyed the sincerity of our sensitive heart that does not want to admit or see that it has inadvertently insulted someone due to its ignorance or lack of self-mastery. As an example, 2 speakers say the same words, one is inspiring and uplifting, and the other is flat and doesn't do anything for the listener. The same words have opposite effects. This proves that the words themselves are empty, but it is the speaker who gives them life, power and meaning. Another example, 2 listeners to the same speaker, one is captivated and the other is bored. The words have no power, our interpretation alone has the power to build or destroy. This is equally true both in speaking as well as listening. Become a wise speaker and a wise listener, both will develop simultaneously by developing each one. If you would develop an immunity to words by using presence of mind to examine all words for their validity and objective power, you could not possibly get insulted, hurt or upset by anyone's words. This is a simple quality that is developed with the exercises taught here. The objective reality of words is their inability to have any effect on their own. They are not solid objects that have power over anyone. If one were deaf, words are absolutely harmless to them. Words to a deaf person do not exist, if they did not read lips, of course. Therefore, since words can only affect some people and not others, proves that in themselves they have no real existence. If something had an existence of its own, it would have an effect on everyone, as does a stone dropped on your foot. If a stone is thrown at someone regardless of who they are, it will have an effect. The power of words lies in the listener, not the speaker or the words themselves. Words are our main form of communication. Words have the greatest power to make us happy or sad, aggravated or elated. How can something that has no actual material reality have such a powerful effect over us emotionally and physically? If someone gives you a gift, and you do not accept it, who does it belong to? The strength of words is entirely subjective and personal. They are a knife that you pick up and stick directly into your own heart, through your mind. If someone threw a pillow at you, and you did not react to catch it, it would bounce right off your body and fall away. However, instinctively you will react to catch it. How you interpret the meaning of words is based on your own interpretation, which is your subjective view of the world. Your subjective opinions are a veil, which hangs between you and the world. Every word, sound, smell, sight and interaction that reach your mind and intellect pass through this subjective veil of interpretation. Directly behind that lies your imagination. Your imagination is the chef to your mind, feeding it the right food to get certain reactions. This subjective veil forms from your first breath until you stop learning about the subject in question. You stop learning as soon as you are certain you understand something. Once your mind is satisfied that it understands any item, including the definition of a word, then it closes down the learning function and places that in a box labeled understood. That is a subjective mind. It knows something and is satisfied that its opinion is correct, and then pulls out that definition any time the item appears. If your mind is objective, then it is open to questioning all things in context of the current situation, including words. The subjective person lives looking through boxes, the objective person has no boxes to carry around. A subjective person is a prisoner to their thoughts and opinions. An objective person is free to choose what they think and adjust or adapt spontaneously. This veil is basically our personality, who we are, who lives each day and determines our experiences in this life, good or bad, filled with conflict or harmony. This personality can change and grow, or it can stay the same. It is a matter of understanding how it works, and putting in the effort to refine it. Words are the weapon of insults and emotional manipulation. We are constantly manipulated by other people's words, whether we know it or not, whether they intend to do it or not, all due to the interpretation your subjective veil places on them. This is the nature of the reactive mind that is the default state of consciousness when you are not fully present. This is the basis of how your moods are so easily changed without your noticing what happens to make it change. This handicap can easily be changed. 1. Who has found the power of words and ease by which we are manipulated so subtly, by the words and events of every moment, and has disarmed their power, cannot be insulted or hurt. Being hurt by spoken words leads to getting angry, which leads to an argument or walking away. Misunderstood words or words that are interpreted subjectively through the veil of personality are the cause of many conflicts. A conversation is nothing more than an exchange of subjective opinions. Your subjective interpretation of a word is the real cause of conflict and arguments because you interpret what you hear based on your preformed opinion rather than what is relevant to the situation or speaker. There are so many factors, which affect the true meaning behind a spoken word or the tone used, getting lost in the translation from one subjective mind to another subjective mind. There are many possible causes for harsh sounds that come with harmless words. If a tree was about to fall and you move out of the way, you cannot get hurt. Your subjective view of the world, your fixed opinions, in a way a touch of arrogance, is the you that must move out of the way. At the same time, it is your own ego that gives air the power of stone. Words are nothing more than air that the speaker projects. Air cannot hurt you on its own, you have to put in the effort. That is the cultivation of true humility, knowing you do not know and not reacting to what you think you know. Humility and objectivity are always close together. Are you the cause of conflicts? There is an interesting point that we are very often unaware of that causes us to incite conflicts. We get very excited by others people's reactions. The more we can get someone to react, the more we enjoy it. This is an enhancement to human pleasure. If you give someone a gift and they do not react, you feel let down. But if they squeal with joy, then you enjoy it far more. When we are bored or feel the desire for a little entertainment or action of any sort, we do what we can to get reactions from other people, negative or positive. This is a common situation in a work or other environment where there is not much diversity or change of scene. I think this also has a lot to do with destructive children and vandalism. In the case of an office job where you see the same people all day, look at the computer and day after day there is little if any variation, given that you are subject to this natural human trait, eventually your mind just can't take it anymore and needs some new stimulation. One day, something has to give way. Normally we are better controlled than to pick a fight. But there are those days when something is just a bit off balance, either not enough sleep, a bug coming on, teething or anything that could be itching you. On those days, we are more likely to let go and look for some stimulation, a change of pace. An easy and ever-present means of getting some attention is to create a conflict. It could be setting two other people against each other by placing false or insulting thoughts in their mind, false gossip. Having practiced enough self-observation, a concept explained in greater depth in another chapter, you would eventually see the need for excitement growing inside you. Channel it towards some sort of lunchtime adventure, surprise your co-workers by ordering donuts delivered for the afternoon break, or organize a stripogram for your boss, depending on how vital the need for excitement is, of course. Let's put you back in the innocent role as the unlucky recipient of a person in such a mood. Assuming that there are more than two people present, you may react accordingly to what the aggressor desires, or you may have developed the objective view and see it coming for what it is. When you stand firm, or more accurately flexible, the attack will either fizzle out or move on to another person. This may not eliminate the creation of a conflict somewhere else, but in time, if you maintain your inability to be affected, others will notice and eventually your presence will have a stabilizing effect on all around you. Always bear in mind what the other person could be going through. Problems with a spouse, family, their health, or financial concerns. There are so many things that could be disturbing someone. These unlimited factors that no one could perceive of unless they are a perfected mind reader, will create many possible reasons for their actions, words and attitude. All of these unknown factors must be taken into account before a conflict is perceived. You don't have to know what the real cause is, you just need to accept that you don't know. Does the universe really revolve around you? We can be so selfish and arrogant at times. How often have you been faced with what you perceive to be a rude comment and taken that as a personal attack of some sort? In time you found that the aggressor had something terrible going on in their life and had no idea that their behavior or words were hurtful since they were not in the least intended in that way. Add to that your regret when you found out that they are going through something very different. How quickly does your hostility turn into compassion and then regret for your harsh response or thoughts? It would be better for all concerned if you received every comment that you perceived as negative with compassion until you found out the true nature behind it. If it were not intended as you thought, that would save you the heartache of an unjustified argument or guilt for your misplaced thoughts. If it does turn out to be intended aggressively, we will get to that in later chapters. If I want you to speak the way that I like, in a tone that fits my preference even if it is insisting you speak politely, then I am telling you how to think and act. I wouldn't want anyone telling me how to feel, so what gives me the right to tell others how to behave? That is basically arrogance. Now if someone were very arrogant, you would not enjoy associating with him or her. Of course, proper manners and thoughtfulness of how we speak to each other is very important, and I am not reducing the value of good manners in any way. Bear in mind that this book is intended to eliminate anger and conflicts from the mind of the person who is reading it, not the whole world. My point is that when someone wants you to speak the way they prefer, and then it is usually their subjective opinion of what is right or their way of controlling the situation. Interactions would flow very smoothly if everyone took care of one person, only one, themselves. Unquestionably you must always consider others, which is the best training you can give yourself. However, when someone is demanding that others must act the way they dictate or they will fly off the handle, In that case there is no need for you to be manipulated and get upset. You know what you say and do, you know if you are polite or rude, you know how you should feel. The goal here is to give you, the reader, an impermeable personality that cannot get affected regardless of what is said or how anyone speaks. This power is useful in far greater lengths than eliminating conflicts between people. It brings stability in all situations. In business, as a leader, as a parent, a teacher, tour guide or whatever your work in life, the ability to remain unshaken is very valuable. The concepts here are to open a channel in your mind to increase your abilities to communicate. Good communication rarely starts a fight. Good communication begins with the ability to hear and react appropriately far more than it is to merely speak with eloquence. If you do not know what it feels like to receive, then how can you expect to deliver with skill? This is about hearing and seeing objectively and eliminating anger and conflicts from affecting your life. If you can attain that, then you will be able to avoid causing any negative feelings in other people's lives. The importance of an objective view. Normally, when someone speaks, you interpret it the way you think they mean it. Your personal subjective opinion of the meaning of the word may be totally different. Learning how to see all interactions and events objectively is the key to freedom and elimination of confrontation. When someone speaks, they use the words that come to their mind to express what they feel. However, these words do not always accurately express what they intend to say. Sometimes we are so emotionally distraught that we say things without thinking and regret it later. Some people simply get tongue-tied and do not have any eloquence. The problem is that often the damage has been done before the words can be taken back. Imagine a baby soiling its diapers just after you changed it. You cannot get upset with the baby who has no self-control. Likewise, see all those whose words hurt you as that uncontrolled baby, helpless and unable to control their functions. What a thought, your angry boss peeing in his pants. An example of an everyday situation is that you may be feeling out of sorts for any reason, personal family problems or not enough cash to pay the mortgage. You say something to someone in a rude tone, very unintentionally but getting them upset. Since you are already in a sensitive state, you react to their negative reaction and an argument develops. This all happens quickly and automatically because neither of you are not aware of how your minds work. Any emotional reaction to another person's words stems 100% from the interpretation of your own mind and has nothing to do with the words themselves. Words have no power other than that which you place upon them. Once you understand the way your mind operates and it no longer runs automatically, the same situation would unfold like this. You say something to someone in a rude tone, very unintentionally, but getting them upset. Regardless that you are already in a sensitive state, you would not react to their negative reaction but would observe the reason for their tone and words. You would look for the reason they spoke that way and find that you were the cause. Finding that, you would immediately correct your unconscious and unintentional action and no argument would develop. This all happens quickly and automatically because you are aware of how your mind works. Conflict cannot exist for an objective person. This may sound simple and yet unattainable, but I ask you to proceed with an open mind. The methods are not complicated and within a matter of a few weeks you will easily attain this ability. We are affected equally by actions as by words. When another driver does something that upsets you, remind yourself that you can't see what is in front of their vehicle, or in their vehicle, or their circumstances. We often get upset in traffic and curse other drivers, taking things personally when it could be completely unconscious. You could be correct and they are being careless or deliberately rude, but you do not know for sure. If it was unconscious and unintentional, then there is no reason to get upset. If it was deliberate, why give them the satisfaction of your anger? Often you may get angry with other people for doing something you do yourself. You really are angry with yourself more than the other person. Another example is if you are driving and a pedestrian steps onto the road in your path, you sound the horn and alert them. They jump and get out of the way. Normally you may curse their stupid action and get upset. What is the true cause behind your irritation? Is it that you are upset that your car may get scratched? Or could the anger be diverting your mind from thinking about the guilt you would feel had you hit and hurt, or even worse, killed someone? This mental process is called a buffer, and again, this is dealt with in a later chapter. Instantly reacting with your interpretation of another person's intentions when misunderstood is dangerously opening the door to conflicts. Do not force others to stick to the words they use, but allow for the retraction and rewording. This is compassion. Compassion is accepting others to be less than you may be, at their level of intelligence, intellectual speed or education. This is not being arrogant or superior, it is being compassionate, understanding, accepting and objective. There are several good exercises that work well to attain the abilities mentioned in this chapter. The first one that I will explain is necessary to perform the second one, so best bear that in mind when trying them all out. Exercise 2. This exercise takes a few days or maybe a couple of weeks to become proficient. The first step is easier to do standing up, but you can do it sitting or lying down as well, whatever works best for you. You should practice at least once or twice a day, but you can do it as many times as you wish. The more you do it, the faster you will become proficient. This exercise is based on the idea that when your foot hurts you bite your finger, and that stops the pain in your foot. The exercise is to put your attention in your stomach until you can feel any sort of sensation there. Once you feel something, then put your attention on your forehead, again until you feel some sort of sensation, then move to another part of your body. Keep moving to other parts or even go back to the same ones when you feel a sensation in the part you are focusing on. Which part you focus on is irrelevant, the point is to focus on one point until you feel a sensation, then move all your attention to another point. Do this exercise for about 5 minutes or longer if you like. Once you have the hang of this and can easily feel a sensation wherever you put your attention, you can move on to the next exercise. Exercise 3. Whenever you are faced with a conflict or negative situation, either when you are in it or anticipate one coming up, use your mind to find an area of your body that you feel the sensation similar to what you observed in the first exercise. There will be one area that you will find a sensation more than anywhere else. Just scan your body until you find it. As soon as you find that spot, put all your attention into any other spot on your body, it does not matter where. If you feel anger creeping in, or even if you are in the midst of it and you find the sensation in your stomach, put your attention into your left foot or your knee or right elbow, it does not matter where, just away from the point you felt the initial sensation. Watch how fast your anger will disappear. In addition to the exercises, here is something to consider when you are getting upset for any reason. Consider 3 points whenever you feel a conflict or anger creeping up. That the other person does not mean to attack you. Something may be troubling them, or you may be misinterpreting the situation. That no conflict can be successful unless you participate in getting yourself upset. Do the cost-benefit accounting to see if getting involved is a worthwhile expense. You will learn about that in its own chapter. You interpret words based on your mental and emotional state at the moment. Someone who loves you says something to support you in his or her best interest and love, and you get upset or hurt. Why? Because you took it one way and they meant it another. Isn't this common? And this by developing an objective view of words rather than a subjective interpretation of their meaning based on your personal state. If I say something, then the words should be taken according to my emotional state, not the listener's. If I am not developed enough to know how to speak correctly or respectfully, then why should an objective listener get upset with my words? The listener often reacts unnecessarily because they listen with subjective opinions, not really hearing what is said, or meant. Exercise 4. Practice precision in your speech. Refrain from using exaggerated words to describe the weather, or the traffic, the weight of a bag, the length of a fish, Expressions of effort. I was about to die, it was killing me. Stop using automatic saying or exchanging incorrect words for appropriate one. Reflect on how you speak about other people. If you cannot stop yourself before speaking, then think about it afterwards. Soon enough you will be able to think before speaking. Words have no more power than the garlic in last night's meal. Learning to control how you speak develops how you listen at the same time. The end. I sincerely hope that you and anyone you pass this little book on to will gain something of value, or even better, get rid of as much negative experiences in your life as possible. Anger is not natural, it is not a necessary part of our life, it is just a habit we learn from watching how other people react. We do not need to keep this destructive habit. If you have enjoyed this book, please do let me know. I love getting mail, and I am always happy to answer questions if anything is not clear. If you have a web page, please consider putting this link on your site. Self-development. And if you like it enough, I love to travel and give my courses, so don't be shy. Best wishes for a life of laughter and happy relationships. David. Copyright David Samuel. www.davidsamuel.net. Copyright David Samuel, 2008.